and I'm going to be talking extensively on the subject matter of the demolition of the Lagos-Calabar, the recent update on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, and I'll also be talking extensively on unplug this, touch it, shaking. Is it on? Yes, it is. All right, so I'm going to be talking. Remove it. It's not charging. All right. So it's great to be here. First of all, I want to say a very big thank you to everybody, and we're going to be talking basically on the most important issues that is affecting real estate investment. In case you're coming across this channel for the first time, this is Property Matters live session. Most times on Sundays like this, I do have recorded videos that I upload for your personal viewings, but I have not entered the studio for some time, so I have not recorded most videos. But today, let's have a practical, discussion on the present challenges that we are facing as Lagosians and as Nigerians. So today we're going to be talking extensively on the present updates at the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. We've been on this for quite some time, and I said that we are going to be talking. I'll be giving you updates as regards government regulations. So in case you're joining this, you are at the right time, and I don't want this to happen without informing you. So sorry for the short notice. We're going to have a brief discussion, and I'll be discussing some important things. More importantly, for those who have invested in Lagos and those who are also planning to invest in Lagos, that has joined me on this live session. So without wasting further time, I'll just go straight into the topic of today. So let's talk about the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, and there've been a lot of. So I'm going to start off with that. Then gradually I move to other important segments of today's session. So I'm going to start with the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. There've been a lot of um, discussions concerning it, and we have be giving updates, okay? And I don't give unclassified updates. Any information I give concerning what is going on um in that axis is, trust me, a verified and of course valued one. Now a lot of people reached out to me when they did the inauguration of the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road, when the president in the person of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did the inauguration of at the first kilometer of construction. And in that interview, the president called on real estate developers to be mindful of the setback, and they also said that they will be enforcing all setback. And also during that launch, I we also heard that His Excellency the Honorable Minister of Work in person of Engineer David Umai said he's going to appeal to every state governor to give them 500 meters as the setback. Of course, we told you basically that the government has not officially, announced what will be the gazetted setback for the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road. Now, a lot of people reached out to me and they are saying what is going to become the fate of people who have invested then. And I told them basically that there is really absolutely nothing to be scared of, that we will be talking, we will keep you people informed on their decision if there is a setback that has been announced. And will I say I'm happy or I'm sad? Yes, it has now been official. The federal government of the Nigeria has officially announced the anticipated setback for the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road. Okay, and the anticipated setback will be 500 meters. I mean, I said 500. It will be 150 meters to the left and to the right. So now, but there is an exemption. Now, the 150-meter setback that was announced by the federal government, that was I think 2 days ago, will start at kilometer 5. Now, a lot of people don't understand the placement or the arrangement of the coastal road, and I'll be explaining where kilometer 5 starts from. We all know basically that the coastal road started right from Victoria Island, and it extends all the way to Calabar. Now, recently, we also got an information now that the same coastal road will be further extended to Edo State. So there's an extension of the coastal road to the Edo State, and that obviously is a good news to my Bini brothers and sisters. The coastal road will definitely get to your state, to your states. However, the official setback for the coastal road is 150 meters. Now, a lot of people have, and this 150 meter setback will start at kilometer 5. So that means the 150 meter setback will start reading immediately after Eco Atlantic, after Victoria Island. So if there is any properties that falls within the stipulated setback arrangement, it will fall under government required setback. So it's 150. Now, a lot of people have reached out to me. 150, isn't that outrageous? Well, I am not in a position to say whether it is outrageous or not, but what we're going to be doing basically, when they started the construction of the coastal road, a lot of people have reached out to me who wanted to buy properties on the coastal road. And one of the things I said, that I told some real estate investors, is that let government announce their setbacks, okay? And now that they have announced their setback, then you can start taking your land from there. Now, there was a real estate development company that was selling a property within that coastal road, and he said that he has left the required setback, which is 30 meters. Now, the consequences basically is that if he has left 30 meters, that means out of the land he has sold, he's still going to lose 120 meters of the land. So somebody was asking me, now, how wide or how big is the 150 square meters, 150 meters setback that was announced by the federal government? Now, it's 150, it's official, we know. Now, what should you now do further? Now, when government announced the setback, what is now going to be the fate, okay, of people who are community members, or what is going to be the fate of people who are residents in that community? Now, let me also quickly tell you basically that if you have been familiar with, so I really don't know much about the Okunwaja, the Songotedo, but I will quickly explain basically that the government also said, federal government also said that there's going to be a waiver in some places where it might affect a whole lot of things. And I think the waivers will be given to communities, because you see, if you should look at the original alignment of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, it was not at where it was supposed to be. So there was an adjustment, and the new alignment was shifted. And out of that new alignment, majority of the setback falls into the excised portion that that government gave the people. I know people of Iwerikun right now will start making their own appeal, and they'll start writing to the appropriate authorities. The people of Eleko, the people of Solu or Olumija, the people of Okwaja, because you see, 150 meters setback is a lot. It's like you are taking half. Though a lot of people have allegedly says that the coastal road is a land grabbing strategy. Well, I'm not here to discuss that. I'm just here to give you reality check and explain to you what is actually happening and what you. So if you're an investor, I'm announcing to you right now that the setback for the coastal road is 150 meters. Now, what should you now do? Now, if you're buying properties, remember I said that if it's a must for you to invest in the coastal region, okay, of Ibejuleki, it is very important that you wait for government to announce their setback. Now that they've done this is my advice. They initially announced that it is 150. If I were you, basically, if I were you, I will also add additional 50 meters to it. Because you see, if you have been following most of the basic laws of urbanization, now you will understand that when setbacks are being given, there are tendencies that such setback or a realignment may occur. Now, when I was explaining this in one of my videos, I gave instance to what is present happening in the Epe Idapodi axis, where I told them that there is also a setback, 1.5 meters setback that was announced, and a whole lot of people did not pay close attention to it. Now, if you are buying, you know that most of the places that developers are selling land, we know a lot of people are selling in Ajah, a lot of people are selling in Sangotedo, a lot of people are selling in Iwirekun. Iwirekun is in the Bejuleki, Solo Rumija, Shirinwon, La Campagne Tropicana, Odeomi. If your developers, if you are buying, ensure that you have observed that 150 meters. And if you are not sure of what that 150 meter is, if you are going for inspection, endeavor you go with a surveyor who can measure. Now, investing along the coastal road region is a fantastic investment opportunity. More importantly, if you are an intelligent land banker, which is good. I have never discouraged or disapproved anybody from investing in the coastal road region, but I only make recommendation based on the fact that the federal government are yet to announce the official setback. Now that they have, if you must buy, ensure you leave 150, at most add additional 20 meters to their setback, just in case something happens in the future. Now, what would you now do? Now, if you have now bought a property and your developer did not, okay, observe this setback, I will advise, don't accept documents on a land that you are not assured, because you see, the moment you have accepted the document, okay, or you have been allocated to your property and your allocation falls within the specified setback that was recently announced by the federal government of Nigeria, the document is binding. You have extremely difficult ways in trying to get resolution. So ensure you pay attention to this. So what is now going to be the consequence? The consequences basically is that it doesn't matter the title that is on the land that is being sold to you. If it's a government allocated C of O, if it is governor's consent, the moment it falls inside that setback, the gazetted setback portion automatically overrides the title that the land. So the title does not matter if it falls within that stipulated setback. In fact, I know there's going to be a lot of adjustment, and one of the reasons why I've been very, very, very critical about the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road basically is that I know that the federal government, please tell them to get me an handkerchief outside. So the federal government will not spend a whole lot of money on a land and they won't take their own portion, which they have done. Okay, come. All right, which is I apologize, is here on this bag. So I hope that is clear. Moving on, so I'll be moving on to the demolition of the trade fair complex. So I said I was going to give an updated information on this, and in fact, after I made my previous video, my last video, I said I was going to go further, explain the reality of things, and I will also try as much as I can to tell you what is going on. And though a lot of people have, drawn their own conclusion, and majority have concluded hurriedly on things, that are not totally true. This is not a political talk show or an interest-driven sport. This basically is just to inform you, basically to understand what is going on in Lagos. Now, a lot of people have read, giving different, versions of opinion, different versions of stories. Bloggers and of course content creators have jumped. I've seen this as an opportunity, and they have already made their own conclusions and assertion concerning this. A lot of people have said this is a repetition of what happened after the Civil War. This is a repetition of what is going on. It is a target against the Igbos. They are trying to eliminate the Igbos. It's a direct attack on the Igbos. And when informations like this go around, well, like I said, I am not a politician, and I'm not here to either speak for anyone or defend any public. I'm not a public service holder. I don't work for Lagos State government. I'm an entrepreneur who is interested in the politics and of course the activities of real estate activities in my state. So the first thing I'm going to say basically is that I'll be giving three important reasons why the demolition took place, and basically I'm going to be spitting facts, giving evidences, and of course making references to the constitution. Now, one of the things I said previously is that now there was a passionate appeal, okay, by Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu, which is the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. He made a passionate, appeal, okay, to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to call the Lagos State government to stop and halt the demolitions, okay, and of course, I'm following an update on that. In case I hear anything that might be a useful information, you can be rest assured that I will let you know that. Now, why did the demolition take place? And I'm going to start with the previous question I got by a real estate investor, Mr. Desmond from Australia. Thank you very much for that question. And I don't know if you're on this live session. I'm having this live session so that I can, address some of the questions I got in my previous live session, and also so Mr. Desmond asked me that Nigeria does not operate on some principles of fairness. Now, I am saying what he said. I'm quoting Mr. Desmond from Australia, and he said Nigeria is a lawless country, and the government sees themselves as the alpha and the omega. In a sane society, the building wouldn't have gone up to that extent, and people wouldn't have lost their money. Truthfully, I understand your point, sir, and trust me, you have a valid reason. In fact, I also have a valid reason to be angry, because I consider it a failure from the aspect of government. Now, I'm going to be uploading a video where an official, one of the commissioner of the Lagos State, and of course those who were who actually took that demolition exercise, he gave three important reasons. He said, number one, I think I mentioned this in my first video, that there were attempts by Lagos State officials to halt the demolition, to halt the construction of that building at the Trade Fair complex. Now, according to him, okay, most of the Lagos State officials were beaten, and some were not denied. Some were denied access into the complex. That was the first thing he said. Secondly, he stated further that they extended an hand of dialogue and hand of discussion for them to do the right thing. And according to him, he said several attempts were made, okay, to see how they can salvage the situation, but there was no response from them. Now, according to him, he said we cannot use illegality to justify legality. So I'm actually quoting what he said on Arise TV. That's number one. Now, responding to Mr. Desmond's question, who says, where were government officials? That could be a reason why that demolition took place. That's number one. That could be a reason why that demolition took place. Secondly, if you have been following the development of that trade fair complex, you will agree with me, basically, okay, that trade fair complex is under federal government jurisdiction. Festac is under government jurisdiction. some parts of Yaba are under federal government jurisdiction. Festac extension and some part of Amu ward of are under federal government. When you go to the part of Abuliado, or when you go to the part of Yanoba, Ojo and the likes, majority of these places are under federal government acquisition, under federal government jurisdiction. And according to them, okay, only federal government has a right to give approval. However, there was a judgment that was made in 2007 by the Supreme Court that compelled anybody developing properties in Lagos to also seek state government's approval. That just the judgment was given in 2007, and it was also revalidated in 2011. Now, so what you must understand basically is that when constructions are going on, the first thing you need to understand is that the Lagos State Building Control Agency, which is the LAPSCA, don't have the enough staff strength to go around the entire Lagos to start monitoring legal and illegal construction. Now, before I go further, it is very essential that I inform you of what is the actual cause of most of the demolitions in Lagos, because you see, now this is not to justify the fact that the construction shouldn't have gotten up to that stage, but what I'm trying to explain to you as a real estate investor basically is that LAPSCA is currently understaffed, so it is not possible for them to go round because they are not much in number. And basically, even in Ibejuleki, I think the LASAPA, the Lagos State Building Permit Control, just opened their office in Ibejuleki because majority of these offices are in Alausa, so they don't have offices scattered across the state. So whenever there's a construction, they may not be aware. Now, this is not a justification. So they are presently understaffed. So they cannot, majority of them are not even aware. And that is why one of the ways you can safeguard your construction in Lagos is that even Jesus, our Savior, said, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So if the law says, get all your approvals, trust me, you're spending hundreds of millions to build skyscrapers, getting approval should not be a major concern. But that obviously is not the point of contention today. So, Mr. Desmond, the reason why some buildings have gotten to the stage of completion and most times there is no intervention from any government officials is due to the fact that Lagos is too big for those who are enforcing. Like, Lagos is wide, so it is almost impossible, nearly impossible for these guys to be at every location at some time. So what they do basically is that whenever there is a distress call or a problem, that's when they remember that there's a construction that also not to be. So that's when they respond. So they are currently understaffed, so they cannot be everywhere. This is not a justification. This is just a reality check of what is going on. That's number one. So that Supreme Court judgment that was delivered in 2007 and 2011 empowers Lagos to enforce building control. And the judgment also says that despite the fact that the land is under federal government jurisdiction, it does not negate the fact that you must seek state approval, in as much as fact that the land is within the authority of a state. So it is very important that as you have government approval, the federal, you must also seek state approval. So that demolition went on because there was no state approval. And according to the honorable commissioner, several attempts that were made, okay, to meet up with them fell into deaf ears. That's reason number one. Reason number two, there have been cases of recent fire outbreaks. If you look at what happened in Afri building, where numerous people died, one of the reasons why we have consistent fire outbreak is due to the fact that there is no adequate spacings for shops in Lagos. If you have been to Eko Idumota, if you have been to some places in Lagos, more importantly, the Eko Idumota market, you find out that shops are jam-packed together. So whenever there is a fire outbreak, it affects the rest. It affects several other shops, and it causes a lot of casualties. Now that fire outbreak happened in Idumota, it happened in Mandelas and several, in fact there were several other places where this fire incident happened. And one of the reasons why the state is always insisting that you seek approval is that whenever you are building your shops, you are building your complexes, there are some required numbers of space. Now, a fire incident happened last year, okay? And while that structure was building, the entire building was razed to the floor because there was no access for the Lagos State Fire Service to enter where the main fire outbreak was happening. The entire place was jam-packed. And if you have been to Mandela, if you have been to Ikodumota, you understand that even for you to have access. Now, this is not a justification of what happened. No, this is just for you to have an intellectual explanations to why there are demolitions and to why there will be more. So that last year, LAPSCA complained bitterly that the fire truck of Lagos State government could not access the main building to quench the fire because there was no space for even fire service truck to even enter. And when it comes to construction of shops and the likes, you will agree with me. Thank you very much. You will agree with me basically that most of those shops are very jam-packed. And so whenever there's a fire incident, it makes it extremely difficult for state governments or required fire service to have access. So there is jam-packed, there is no space. And the way people are building shops, they are not following the. So that free fire service that happened where countless number of people, in fact, I have a colleague of mine whose wife was affected, but to the glory of God, she's fine. So that fire outbreak put a lot of tension on Lagos State government. It put a lot of tension because the news went viral and there was a lot of lashing on Lagos State government. So what they did, or what is happening in trade fair complex, is a precautionary approach to ensure that such incident does not happen. And the reason why they are saying you should seek approval basically is that if there's an approval, there won't be closeness like that, so that when there's a fire outbreak, it will not affect others. Because you see, whenever we have such fire outbreaks, basically, the casualties are always numerous. So sometimes it's because of what? To ensure safety and to protect lives. That's reason number 2. So out of pressure, the Lagos State Building Management Control and the LASAPA deemed it first that they should start ensuring the regulations that, see, if you want to build, let us give space. Let us ensure that there is safety. And that is the reason, okay, why demolitions, there's a demolition happening right now in Oral Estates in Ikota. Now, that one is not even being spoken about, basically, because we all experienced the flood that happened in Lekki. Okay, there was a lot of flood that happened in Lekki, and the entire thing went viral. And back to the question, what were government officials doing to stop that illegal construction? I just explained. They are understaffed. All right, and there've been cases of accusations that some of them collect bribe. Well, there is no substantial evidence to justify or prove that allegation. So I don't make allegations without proof. So some people have been saying they've been bribing government officials, blah blah blah. Well, there is no evidence to justify that or to prove that assertion. So it still remains an assertion. But could there be possibility? Maybe. So the demolition that is happening in Oral Estates right now in Lekki, in Ikota, basically is, structures were built on waterways. And let us come to this conclusion very quickly. And what is that conclusion? In my previous video, I said And I'm going to state this very, very clearly so that you can have an accurate understanding of what is going on in Lagos. Lagos is one of the major states that is experiencing housing deficits. And Lagos is home to over 20 million immigrants. And to say that in a state where housing deficits or housing crisis is a problem, and governments and private real estate developers have been trying all they can to ensure that they solve this case to the barest minimum. Okay, now, do you think that demolishing existing structures is the right thing to do? Now, whenever I have live sessions like this, a lot of people have reached out. In fact, one of the reasons I'm even doing these live sessions basically is that I've gotten messages from people. They hate the Igbos. They don't like the Igbos. They are trying to attack them. They don't want them to stay in Lagos. Blah blah blah. Well, we are gradually approaching one of the most important phases of our political history. And I would say this, I said this, I raised this particular, issues, this particular question in my previous videos, basically. And I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say this unapologetically. Everybody, regardless of what is happening in Nigeria, this is not the case of Igbos, Yorubas, Hausas, Edo, Niger Delta. This is affecting everybody. Do you understand? It's affecting everybody. I would say basically that as a nation, okay, there are still some things we need to do to achieve some level of development, okay? And we run a system where, in most cases, things don't go the way they ought to. And in trying to strike a balance, okay, to put things the way they should, a lot of things will have to be affected. This is not a justification to what is happening in Lagos, the Trade Fair Complex, and other places. This is not a justification. But this is more or less like an enlightenment for us to understand what is the actual cause. Okay? So if you buy a property in Lagos, this is what the law says. The law says that if you are bought either from federal government, the law, a Supreme Court judgment that was passed in 2007 and invalidated in 2011, mandates that you must seek state approvals. That's what the law states. And I said, basically, in that previous video, the last video, that video is generating a lot of likes, comments. Thank you very much. I said, if we follow the laws, okay, and we get penalized for it, then we can now come to the conclusion that we are being marginalized. Not just Igbos, not just Yorubas or another. We all are being marginalized. Because you see, for every demolitions or anything that tends to happen in Lagos, apart from the fact, okay, that people don't give validated informations, or they don't get the informations the way they should, there have been a lot of untrue assertions to it. So this is what I want to say. If you understand the law and you follow the law, and you are being penalized for following the law, we can take it up. That way we can now come to the conclusion that there is a political undertone. Because I said in the last video, the election is fast approaching, and basically a lot of things will happen. A lot of people will play the propaganda cards. A lot of people will play the tribal cards. A lot of people will play through the sentiment cards. You understand the way politics is being played. It's not just a Nigerian thing. It's a general thing, basically. But whenever we have situations like this, I want to appeal to everybody, diasporan, Nigerians in Nigeria, everybody, let us tend to investigate further so that we don't get divided along tribal and political sentiment. We need to investigate further. And the reason why I'm coming online to explain this is to explain this is what the law says concerning this. So, is Lagos safe for investment? 100% safe for investments, provided with the fact that you are going to follow the pattern of the law. That's just it. That's just it. So what happened in Trade Fair Complex basically is not a winch on thing. Basically, it's just like a misunderstanding between two parties, and the misunderstanding right now has generated a lot of controversies. So I'll say that. Now, do I think that the demolitions will continue? To an extent, it has generated a lot of concerns globally. And I believe that the Lagos state government will give room for dialogue. For those who have lost their property, my heart goes with you. I sympathize with you people. I understand. There's nobody should be experiencing this kind of thing in this economy. I sympathize. Let us extend and accept the hand of dialogue. Let us resolve this amicably so that, see, as a nation, we have been confronted with so many things, and we just can't allow things like this divide us. We can't, because there's a lot of things. Now, so what is now the political implications to real estate? The demolitions, the recently announced setback for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. Now, the implication is going to come from two different forms. Now, the demolitions that have happened basically has been approached from a political undertone, and people have read different meanings to it, and they've given it different versions of their interpretations. You want to be going? Okay. Now, this is going to be the implications. A lot of people are disappointed. I am also disappointed. I believe basically that we should have extended a hand of dialogue and settle this amicably. Thank you, Flow TV, for joining this live broadcast. Yeah, so I'll also be giving rooms for questions, for answers. I just got back from our global communion service. I'm a Christ Embassy member. Okay, so thank you. So I that was why I even started 2 minutes late, because we needed to. Okay, you can go. Okay, so the demolitions basically, to me, even if to an extent there's a justification for it, to an extent there's a justification. They didn't have approvals. According to Lagos State government, officials were beaten, and hand of dialogue was extended, and they refused it, according to Lagos State Commissioner. Okay, and there've been several fire outbreaks because of closeness of, because shops are not built according to approvals, according to plans, and this has resulted, to a lot of casualties. People died in the UB fire outbreak in the Dumota in Lagos. Then we've had consistent cases of fire outbreaks, casualties, and the likes, and this obviously is trying to protect the lives of citizens. However, it was done in a more aggressive manner, and this is why we had a lot of shades of interpretations of it. So it is not a justification. It is not. I believe as an individual basically that they should have used dialogue to it. So to both parties, the traders at Trade Fair Complex and Lagos State government, thank God to the fact that His Excellency Peter Obi, the former okay, is this the former Labour Party presidential candidate, or because he's still in Labour Party, was there. I love the fact that this actually generated a lot of attention. I love the fact. Yes, I generated a lot of fact. I love the fact that Nigerians are speaking out I love that oneness. Okay, basically that obviously is what is happening, and that is what should happen in institutions like this. And I love the fact that His Excellency, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, President of Benjamin Kalu, also lent his voices, calling for the attention of the federal government. I can assure you, basically, that whatsoever that happened at the Trade Fair complex will be resolved. It will be resolved. Will there be compensations? Will there be adjustment to building? I can tell you basically that there will be adjustment to buildings, because you see, fire outbreaks basically are things that we should put into consideration whenever we are constructing. Like I said, it is not a justification. Okay, it is not. Basically, it's just for me to give this. So are we going to the final part of today's live session? Now, if you're buying properties in Lagos, more importantly, if you are building, I'm also going to make this passionate appeal to you once again. It's a passionate appeal because I am a Nigerian. I am a, I'll say, I am a, I'm for development and growth. Sorry. And I'm for development and growth. I want uh, the the great the best for this nation. Please get the necessary approvals. Get the necessary approvals before you start construction. Get necessary approval. If after getting the approval and your building is still now demolished, that's where we can now come to the justification, or come, okay, to the fact that we are being marginalized, and we should not respond with just criticism. We should respond with action, approaching the court of law. Now, a lot of people have been saying. Someone asked me a question. Someone asked me a question that, um, but if you take governments to court, will you win? Ah, I know some families in this our Lagos that have taken government to court and they've won the case. In fact, there are a lot of properties that we have their documents with me, that majority of them are registered Supreme Court judgments. Because if you have the basis, if you have the information, if you have the evidence to prove that this rightfully belongs to you, in the competent court of jurisdiction, you will win your case. So this is not the case of whether you take government to court. So let us do our own part. If the law says, or if the law says, okay, fine, you have federal government approval, get state government approval before you build. Please do that. It doesn't cost much. It doesn't cost much. Basically, once we do that, and there's a situations like this, then we can call for the law to take its course. We can take them to court and get the right thing. Now, for people who are investing in the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, the official setback is 150 meters. Let me tell you that it will not end there. It won't. Now, I've seen from experience, I've seen from different activities in Lagos, that whenever there is an official setback, it is always advisable, because of this and this in the future, add either 50, 30, or 20 meters extra to what government has stipulated. That is number one. Number two, if you are buying along the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, it is a federal government coastal highway. And the advantage of the coastal highway is that it will rapidly bring in development to that axis. However, in cases where we have development of this nature, kindly note that the development also brings different attentions to that area. So mistake number one that you must avoid, to avoid stories of this happened to my land, this happened to my land. The coastal road is not the best place to go and buy excision. It is not the first place to go and buy C of O in view. The coastal road is not a place to go and buy anything in view. If it is not C of O with
a document that can be proven. If it is not a governor's consent, if it's not a government allocation, my dear brothers and sisters, stay away from such property. Now, the point that I'm trying to raise here is not based on the fact that I am discouraging people from owning properties, or I don't want you to do. See, I've been in this industry long enough that I know that any property facing the any of the roads, I'm going to say this, any of the properties facing the road that is not properly secured and documented is prone to crisis, because the coastal highway is going to usher a lot of interest. Now, for some of my people that are buying properties in the Bejuleki axis facing the coastal road, apart from the fact that you have now known that it's 150 meters, and you are making plans to give them additional 10 or 20 meters to avoid stories that touch, don't buy and go to sleep. You might be saying, is land banking now. I'm keeping it for the future. Well, I've stayed well long enough in this industry to understand the politics when it comes to land. Not just land in locations that may attract attention. So, investors, my people at home and in diaspora, if you are buying, C of O file number is not C of O. Excision is good, but it does not hold waters in a place where we have the coastal road is a federal government project. It doesn't hold waters in federal government because you see, a lot of politics will be played. So I'm saying it again. C of O, governor's consent, government allocation, anything that is in process, you should only buy when you have the intention of doing the document. Now, a lot of people have asked me, how soon do I start my documentation? The moment you have gotten your paper from developers, proceed. Proceed to Alausa or to any places, whether it is Ogun State Land Bureau, whether it is because you see, the coastal road will generate a lot of controversies. So I'm going to take a brief pause while I'll take questions based on what I've said so far. Based on what I've said so far. So in case you have questions, inquiries, let's have them briefly. Today is Sunday. So this live session that we're having today, there won't be live session tomorrow, but by the special grace of God on Tuesday, we are going to be talking on how to avoid bad real estate developers. Yes, by the special grace of God. I'm going to be talking about how to avoid terrible developers. I'm going to be talking about that. It's going to be a live session. Trust me, we've had experiences and we learn every day. And these experiences are what we shared. So for anybody that wants further clarifications on some of the things I've said, and you want to do properties and you need further clarifications, my numbers are on the caption of this video. It's +234 802 132 7360. I'm going to take it again. +234 if you are sending me a message from the diaspora, 132 7360. So that's my direct WhatsApp line. You can drop your questions and I would respond to that if time permits us to do so. For everybody that have joined, please give me a like. Thank you for those who are liking. Just give me a like so that we can get more recommendations. Facebook and YouTube will recommend this video. If you have found this very, very enlightening and good, please do well to subscribe. A lot of people have been watching our videos, you don't subscribe. See, this is where you get undiluted information. We say it the way they are, because we have safety is our watchword. We don't play with safety. So, and that's why we share this information. So on Tuesday, by the special grace of God, 5 p.m. this time around, I decided to have it after this session by 6 because it's a Sunday, and I know that majority might not go to work. Many people will be in their house resting, and from the turn up, a lot of people have joined. I thank you. So I think once in a while like this, um, we can also do this by next week Sunday. We can do this by, of course, that would not stop us from dropping our important, our educative series as well. So let's have questions very quickly. And okay, I think I have three questions here. Okay, I have three questions here. So okay, this is actually from, okay. So if you send me a question and you want me to mention your name, please let me know. If you want to remain anonymous, also let me know. This is Amici from Texas. Okay. Amici says, but these people at the trade fair complex showed copies of approvals and they were demolished. Don't you think this is an injustice, most especially to Igbo people? And that is why we are reluctant in investing back home. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Amici, for this question. Okay. Now, like you rightly said, they have approvals. Now, I am not saying they don't have approvals, okay? And there is no one is denying the fact that there was an approval. However, Lagos State government, whenever they do things like this, they have their own proof to show that they are following the ambit of the law. Yes, approvals according to the constitution is supposed to come from both sides. It's supposed to come from both the federal and the states. And the reason why they are emphasizing on this approval basically is to ensure that some safety parameters are being put in place when construction is going on. And if you are following some of the things I said there have been cases of fire outbreaks in our markets, most especially in Mandelas, Ekodumota, and so. Of course, the one that happened in Afri building tower claimed a lot of lives, and these situations would have been avoided if people pay attention to some basic safety building regulations. And I also mentioned basically that there were tensions on Lagos State government to ensure that repeated cases of fire outbreaks are reduced to the minimum. And that is why they are going from market to market to ensure that the same building mistakes are not repeated consistently. And I also mentioned basically that there were hands of dialogue, according to Lagos State Commissioner. He said that there were hands of dialogue that were extended to these builders, and they were insisting that they don't have business with Lagos State government, that they already got the approval from federal government, okay, and they rejected this hands of dialogue. And because of the fact that there have been repeated cases of fire outbreaks, they had to embark on that demolition to ensure some basic building protocols that must be ensured. And the good thing basically is that His Excellency um, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, has intervened. His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party has also intervened. I believe basically that both parties will sit down, they will have a resolution, and they won't be repeated cases like this. Okay, so that is it. So there were approvals. I'm not disputing it, but in some cases, the major cause of this was because the approval did not come from both parties. Now, basically, demolition obviously shouldn't have been the right or the next step of action, but basically, it happened, and we're looking forward to see that there will be further dialogues, and then the situations will be addressed to the various minimum. Thank you very much for the questions. And the next question I have here is from Samson from Abuja. Okay, I have 5 plots of land at Odiomi. How do I ensure that is within, it is not inside the setbacks? Okay, in this kind of situation, I can't. In fact, even me too. I don't know how big, but I know that 150 meter is a lot. Now they were, there are allegations. We have allegations where they said, okay, that the 150 meters setbacks is a method for land grabbing, basically. However, I am not a political analyst. I am not a private investigator, so I can't accurately um, justify or assert that it is a land grabbing, whatever. I honestly don't. Basically, what I know basically is that I think how many trillion has been spent on that coastal road? I think it's between 12 to 15 trillion. I don't know. So government will not spend that amount of money, okay, and don't take their own portion. So I knew there will be setbacks. That was why I said, if you have been following some of my videos, I made it very, very clear where I said basically that let them announce their setback before you start acquiring properties. I said this repeatedly. If you have been following my videos, you would have understood basically that I knew basically we've stayed long enough in this country to understand how some things are being done. So let governments take their share. Okay, by the time they've taken their own setback for purpose best known to them, then the remaining can now be shared among private and public, investors. Now, for your 5 plot of land, I honestly don't even know where where it is. I honestly don't know where it is, and I don't know the layout that the developer is. But if you are being skeptical, although I have it, I expect basically that the developer that have sold to you should have factored this. I think some mistakes that some real estate developer. I'm not saying your own developer made that mistake, but I'm just making a general assertion of what I know. Basically, is that many real estate developers along the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road did not ascertain that the setback will be. Many of them said, okay, fine. If government is going to take the minimum number of setback, it should not be. Some said it should not be more than 30. So I know a developer that left 30-meter setback. So some said it cannot exceed 50. Okay, so a lot of people reached out to me and said, the developer I bought from said he has left 15. What I told the investor basically is that don't be in a hurry. It's not as if you want to start construction next year or next week. I said, let government announce what they want to take. Once they are done, then you can now say, okay, this is what I want to take. This is what I should take. I've said this several times and I'm going to say it again. So, what you will now do in a situation like this, basically, is that get a surveyor to do the calculation. Now, if your plot falls inside that setback, in fact, it doesn't matter the title you have, it automatically overrides whatsoever things you may have on it. It overrides it, and there is practically nothing anybody can do to address that. If that's why I was shouting, let them announce the setback before you start anything. I even told some people that let them announce the setback before you start purchase. Okay, so now they've announced it. Now, of course, it was also said that there will be a waiver, okay, in some places, in a place where the reasons are very, very much convincing. But I think the places where government may give waivers might be an existing communities that have either excisions or gazettes. Okay, so I know basically that in some places where it's an established communities and they have an excision and gazetted, I know basically that those communities will be giving waivers, but other places where you don't have title document at all, it is well. So that's just it. I hope I've answered your question. So that's why I said, and stay away, stay away from excision in process. Excision, anything file number will not hold waters along that coastal road. Is either you are buying with the intention of doing your documents. So because trust me, I won't even pay attention to anybody that says this. So let's have more questions. It's almost it's 7 o'clock already, but I love the way the question is coming in. Okay, so I have another question. Okay, from Christiana. Christiana says, I bought an off-land project somewhere around. Okay, I won't mention the name of this place. I'm not saying I know the place. So okay, so let me just quickly say this. But I kind of had an idea of what Madam Christiana is trying to say. I know the project, I know the locations. It's online, so please, I'll just say send me a private DM. Okay, let's discuss this off camera. And the reason why we're going to say this is that a lot of real estate developers are on this live session. Okay, basically, and most of them are people that know me one on one. So they've been accusations that I'm releasing too much information. So I want to be mindful of what I say. Okay, so this kind of question, I'm sorry, I won't say anything to it. But if you want further resolution, let's talk off camera. You can send me a message and we'll see what we can do. But on this issue, um it's a no no. I'm so sorry, I apologize. All right, so this question says, what's the difference between a contract of sale and a deed of assignment? Okay, how do I all right, a contract of sale is a document, okay, that acknowledges that a buyer or a seller of the property has gotten has received money from you in the purchase of a landed property. It can be landed, it can be housing. But once a contract is given, a contract acknowledges that some amount of money was received for this particular property on this particular date. The contract now states the condition of payment if you have met it, and that. A deed of assignment is a document that transfers ownership from the buyer, from the seller to the buyer. Now, there are two types of deed. We have registered deed and unregistered deed. A normal deed that transferred an ownership to the seller, to the buyer, that is not registered can not serve for title perfection. Are we together? Now, I really don't I have the intention of discussing this, but let us learn together. Now, different real estate companies operate different policies when it comes to deed of assignment. But I'm going to say this. I've worked with some real estate development companies that after they will give you some copies of deed and you have signed it, and you are supposed to take the signed copy back to them so that they will authenticate it and also sign it. Then you can now register your deed with government for them. Do you understand? So basically, someone asked me which of them, okay, is more important. Is it the deed or the contract? Both of them are important. However, if there are cases of seeking a redress in court, a contract without a deed may not be able to state your case further. And it's quite unfortunate that some people mistake a contract for a deed. Both of them are needed in every relationship, and that is sorry, excuse me, and that is why, okay, that most real estate companies always offer deed and contract. So it is very important. Okay, that is it. So I have another question here. Okay, I didn't want this session to be long, but for some of the live sessions I've been having, I didn't actually have that opportunity of time to respond. So this question says, what is the difference between an excised land and a gazetted land? Okay. It's very simple. Very, very simple. Now, let me start by explaining some things that is very, very important. Okay, she's asking, how do I register a deed of assignment? Now, if you want to register a deed of assignment, thank you for that question. Basically, is that a lawyer will be in a better position to do this. Okay. Now, once they registered your deed, okay, some amount of money will be required for. So sometimes I mostly explain basically that once you get the copies of the deed, your lawyer takes it to the alausa. So once the deed is registered, it becomes a consent. So sometimes a lot of people are saying governor's consent. Basically, a governor's consent basically is is a deed that is registered with you. So a lawyer will be in a better position to do what? To register your deed. It's very simple. They just take it to allow us. Of course, there's a fee, okay, that they charge. Okay, there's a fee. They will say, okay, this is what I'll do, but a lawyer will go over the deed, sign it, and of course take it to allow us. It does. It's not it's not difficult. No, it's not difficult, man. So I have another questions. I hope that's clear. So I have another question that says, okay, yes, the difference between excision and gazette, basically. Okay, now let's start by explaining excision. Now, when a land is excised, okay, that means, let's say for instance, I have 10 acres of land in Ibejuleki. I am an individual. Government cannot give me excision because the land does not belong to ancestors. So one of the basic things I think most people misunderstand when it comes to excision is that excisions are not given to private individuals, excisions are not given to companies, excisions are given to communities, villages, and families. And that is why if you now see that excision, you notice that that excision comes in the name of a community or the family. Now, the mistakes that most people make basically is that once an excision has been given, you are supposed to take it a step further. Now, I'm doing a though I have a video where I'll be talking extensively about land documentation in Lagos. Okay, so I'll just briefly just talk about this, like one or two. Okay, now if peradventure you are buying an excised land, so that's why when a developer buys an excised land, okay, the excision will not come in the name of the developer because, like I said initially, it's not given to individuals, it's not given to private individuals, it's given to communities. Now, the developer will now prepare a deed of assignment in transferring that excision, okay, all right, to his own name, okay, and that's why you notice that on the survey of that excision, the survey that the government gives the family, indicating where the parcels of excisions are, indicating the number of plots, indicating the layout of the excision, will now be quoted in that deed. And the deed now will now be transferred from that real estate developer, sorry, from the family to the real estate developer. And that is how excision works. However, once that excision has been granted, it does not stop there. Now that means that excision is now expected to be what? To be documented. Now, a documented excision will now have a volume and a publication page in the official gazette. So that's the difference between normal excision and gazetted excision. So the excision, the gazette will come with a volume. It might be this excision is recorded in volume 4 um, of the Oresoya. Let's assume that the name of the family or the ancestral owner of the land is Oresoya community. The gazette will indicate the number of plots and acres that was granted. It will issue the date it was given. It will issue the volume number that it was given, and it will issue the year and the signature. So it will now be recorded in an official gazette. That's now the difference between gazette and excision. Because you see, a lot of people, a lot of people have asked me that question. Now, the advantage of gazette now is that if you have a gazetted, a gazette, and you bought it, in fact, I've said it before that I prefer to buy a gazette hmm, more than an excision because you see, once you have a gazette, all you just need to do is just file for a governor's consent, and in less than maximum 6 months to a year, you have your consent. It's very easy. So from your gazette, you get your governor's consent. However, if it is an excision, okay, and the excision was not gazetted, and you want to perfect the documents in your name, you will file for what we call regularization or ratification, blah blah blah, and you will now get a government allocation. Now, I did a series where I was explaining the different types of allocations. Okay, I was talking about what government allocation is, the truth behind government allocation. Okay, and I'll be going further. Not obviously not today because I have some questions I have to um, explain on this. Okay, I have to explain of this. Now, someone's asking me. Okay, I have another question that says, why do I need to register my title? Okay, now, why you need to register your title basically is that, one, I've been victim of wicked real estate developers. So when I'm making videos, I'm saying this, people think it's more or less like a personal beef, a rift or something. If you have, I know how most of these guys operate. Now, if you have bought properties from a reputable company that have a title, basically, that they have a title and they are a reputable firm, I will not be mentioning names, but there are some things you will see basically that will give you an assurance that no, this developer is credible. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about, I have a video basically where I'm going to be talking about how to identify a credible real estate developer. So if you are bought from a reputable developer, you don't need to worry about registering your deed because the developer has bought, he has done the necessary documentation, he has protected your interests. Are we together? But in a situation where you begin to sense some foul play, okay, uh, something happened um, 2 months ago, and I have actually made this cautious decision not to intervene, okay, with developers because majority of them don't like me, and trust me, I really don't. But I'm not bothered. Now, this particular person bought this property in Ibejuleki, um, in a community that I advised him not to. But you see, when you are doing real estate transaction in Nigeria, there are some things you need to understand. And the reason why I'll be explaining some of these things, there are some people that they have questionable characters, and I will tell you vividly that there are some real estate developers I can never have anything to do with them. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter where they, if I let them be selling inside Lekki or a place, I will never. Why? Because you see, experience basically will tell you that some people have questionable characters, basically. And the business of real estate in Nigeria, sometimes if you are dealing, you see, Nigeria, Lagos is still the best place to invest. Okay, I'm even spending longer than I anticipated, but this question is because I will do well to respond to all those questions. Now, if you have bought property from a reputable real estate company, you don't need to worry about title, registering your title. You don't. But if you are bought from a developer that have questionable character, I will advise you register your deed. Why? Because you see, there might be issues that may come up in the case that what will save your investment with him is when you have your consent from Lagos State. And that is why sometimes I usually advise that the moment you are beginning to see traces that this guy or this particular person have questionable characters or something. Mr. Wale, báwo pé generator yẹn ò ṣiṣẹ́ kò gbéná wọlé o. Ẹ rí i pé kíní yẹn kò charge mọ́. Apologies. So if you have found yourself in that kind of scenario, please register your deed. That's just it. So after I advised the person not to buy a bot, he got across to me, he spoke, and the several basically if you have bought, you know, in last Italy, Anti-generator yẹn ni. So somebody's asking me basically, so what? So the man asked me what should I just told him three things he should do. And I told him I can never get myself involved because I've had, scenarios like this, and trust me, they are not experiences you want to have. Now, after I told the man what to do. Came back and said, "You have just, you have just saved the day." His lawyer was a fantastic person, and the lawyer asked him, "Who was the person that asked you to do this?" And the lawyer requested to meet me in person, and he said, "Trust me, you are OGs in this industry." But that is obviously not the case. But in a scenario, okay, when you are becoming Abraham, okay, not I want to talk. Okay, the father lost it. In a situation whereby um they have a questionable character issue. So I have a lot of questions. My time is fast spent. This is 7 p.m. Only shaking it. You know that it on. Okay. Kini yẹn ò dùn ni. So I won't be able to respond to all the questions definitely today. My time is fast spent, and I have some couple of things to do. But by the special grace of God, on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself from bad developers. So on that particular day, I'll be exposing some of the things you need to know, basically from practical experience, and how we have been able to deal with some of them, and we're able to get our investments, if not all, but we're able to get some considerable number of compensations, and it ended up. So I'll be sharing practical experience of what we do and what you should look out for when you are buying real estate from Lagos. Basically, this is not to scare you, and that's why sometimes too, I've advised several times that allow us to handle your real estate investment. We know these people, we understand. We have this team. We understand the way this, even if it is politics, we know how it's being played. So basically, we are your best bet. We are your best option. Basically, we can protect your investment. We can preserve it. We can also help you generate good return. And in terms of management, hospitality, we've done this several times. We've done it repeatedly, so we understand the industry, and we understand some important safety measures. But however, for some who choose to do it themselves, we'll also be giving you information on how you should go about it. So by special grace of God, on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about how to protect yourself from bad real estate developers in Lagos. So I want to start by saying a very big thank you to everybody that joined today's live session. It's an awesome experience on this Sunday evening. I don't take this for granted. I want to say a very big thank you to everybody. Mr. Reto Moses, I cite you. Flow TV, thank you very much. Madam Jumi, thank you also for the question. Also on Facebook, Mr. Olu, thank you very much. And let's do this by the special grace of God on Tuesday now.